What's cooler than that?
So like short-term goal for me is something like I want to be able to generate at least half of what I'm making from my job outside of my job, doing my own thing. That's a short-term goal. Doing that, and which would be largely passive, would be what the goal is. I want to be able to do that largely passively, so it doesn't take up all of my time. Because the thing is, if it takes up all of my time all of the time, then it's basically just another job where you always have to be working in order to get the money, right? I want to make money in my sleep. I want to be efficient with the time, so I can actually like have the flexibility to enjoy whatever little bits of success that I have attained to. That's what I want.
Yeah, and that's probably the most terrifying thing about looking at your life and looking at what you've done in the past and realizing how quickly time goes by. And you worked for so much. You worked for so much of your life, and all the time you were working, you were trading your time for money. And your time goes by so much more quickly than the money that you're accumulating.
Yeah.
Like your time
accumulates.
you end up just selling yourself for cheap. Like you feel like a cheap whore. And you're just, it's like we were talking about earlier, when you see someone drive by in a sweet car, and it doesn't seem to bother anybody else. But for you, you're just constantly looking at these people who have figured their way out of this rat race that we're in. And you're like, how come the hell I cannot afford? I'm crippled by the fact that my car just went into the mechanic and it's going to cost $500, and I have to drive around and look for other opinions. To make, can we get this done for $300? And then is this mechanic going to screw me over?
Right.
It's because it's because you haven't figured out how to make your time
more valuable.
Right. You haven't figured out how to make the world pay you instead of you just constantly.
You have to give up a part of yourself. You have to give up more and more of yourself in order to get more of this, this currency.
It's a horrible way to go through life, and so many people do it. And I just, it's always frustrated me. I can't. My God, to think I was having a conversation with a guy at work, and he was like, this was the hilarious part. Okay, I was having this conversation with this dude at work. He's an older guy, and we were talking about the company and how the company doesn't pay us. Every time you get in these circles with these guys at work, one of the things that always comes up is guys are always talking about, oh, they don't pay us, right? We don't get this, we don't get that. One of the things this old dude mentioned to me, we're talking about money, of course. He goes, you're a young man. He's like, if you really knuckle down and dedicate the next 30 years of your life to this company, just work really hard, you're going to get your bonuses, you're going to get this, and he lost me. I tuned out. When he said
the next 30 years,
I was out of the conversation. I was like, how could people who work at companies are obviously necessary.
Yes.
Right? We need employees.
Yes.
But my God, it's not going to be me.
Right.
Okay? We also need bosses and we need owners. Okay? So I've always carried that mindset. And whenever people look at me and go, just trade the next 30 years of your life for whatever this guy is wants to pay you per hour.
Yeah. And that's the thing to me is like, I'm not even afraid of the time commitment so long as I'm investing in myself and my future, and I'm not just making someone else rich. Right. And the thing is, to me, like, if most people were like that, here's what I think. I think we would have better employees. We'd have smart employees, because the thing is, you would be an employee somewhere because you'd have to be, because the way I view my job is it's a source of investment capital. So I'm gonna get as much investment capital as I can. I'm gonna do as great a job there as I can, so I get the most investment capital that I can put into my own businesses and the startups that I'm working on. Right. And so the thing is, you'd have a rotating staff of people like that are hardworking entrepreneurs. That come in and out of the company, and then they go and they start their own thing, but then you got to hire someone new. And if everybody's mindset was like that, it would be different. So you'd still have great employees, but then you'd also have great companies. You'd have more wealth. People's lives could be way different if we were acting like that.
And it would be really great and beneficial for younger people. Because like you're saying, and this would happen to us a lot, even the job Errol's at right now. I used to work at him at that job.
Yeah.
That was one of the biggest issues that we had. Whenever someone came in to work for us, I was a foreman at that company. Errol was a foreman. We would both see this happen. We'd get a guy, they'd put him on our crew. He would show massive amounts of potential and intelligence, and he would exude he would show all these great qualities and skills. And our boss, we would always be talking about, oh, he's doing great, he gets everything. We'd go back and tell our boss that, and eventually our boss would go, well, this guy needs to be running his own crew. So then our great guy that's working for us on this crew, they would get yanked away from us within, a few months or whatever, and he would go off and they would try to have him do more.
Right. Give him more responsibility.
Assign him more tasks and stuff, right? So then when that happens, the next, who do we replace him with?
Exactly.
Generally, it's just someone who doesn't give a damn about the job. And, and it was just this vicious cycle of we get a guy, oh my God, it's one dude. He's actually really great at his job. All right, he's on my crew. He's working for me. And I tell people, yeah, he's great. He's getting everything. And then the boss is like, well, let's promote him. He's going to run a crew. And that guy's gone. Now I have more trash employees again. Right? So this cycle, if every human being, like you're saying, if everybody had that mentality, right, of wanting to put their best foot forward and wanting to strive to get better and better and keep growing, and we can't ask that of everybody, right? But if the majority of people had that
if that were the norm,
it would be a great way to cycle through, because we've got young people coming out of school, or just in school and they want to work a summer job or something, and they're coming out. We constantly have these people, they need these kind of jobs and these kind of influences where people, and they themselves are being taught these hard-working
principles. They get those principles instilled in them,
And we don't have that right now. Not even close, People want to pay you to stay home. People don't want to expect people want to live a life where nothing is expected of them. It's just I'm me, I get to,
by virtue of existing, you owe me.
Exactly. You can't judge me either. Everybody love everybody for everything. What's the Andrew Tate quote? Men have to create their value.
Right. He said, as a man, the most beautiful thing and the most terrible thing is that you're born without any value. You're a clean slate. You can decide to be a superhero, but if you don't take on responsibility and you don't make something of yourself, no one's going to care about you. That's basically what he says.
And what is, isn't that true?
I mean, I think
about it, men have some value, right? We can't say they have none.
Yeah, I think so. The way he looks at it is that is how the world treats you.
Right.
That is how the world treats you. Now, as far as what I believe about humans' intrinsic value, I think everyone has intrinsic value. By virtue of being a human being, you have a certain status for just by virtue of being a created being. But that doesn't mean that that's how the world is going to treat you. That's not how other people treat you a lot of the time, especially if you're a person like a man, where a lot of times you're valued for what you provide and not for who you are.
Right.
And so you might have a great personality. What do you bring to the table beside the fact that I might like you? Like, do you have anything to offer the world, at large?
True.
Are you just a nice guy, And so he's saying, like, that's kind of how it is. Like, you don't, like, you're not born, a very strong, intelligent, wealthy, well-connected person. You have to build those things. Those are the things that make, like, you're not born like that. And if you're born like silver spoon, like, I still don't think you're high value necessarily. Like, I really don't. I really don't. Because those things, like, they're a matter of character that generates the success to me. And if you're silver spoon, you don't have the character. And people will notice that. People will notice when you're just a spoiled brat and you've got daddy's money,
Yeah, value in a human being, it's definitely something that when someone looks at you and they interact with you, it's not going to be what's in your bank account that determines that at the end of the day. To a certain extent, it will. Your money can obviously bring value.
Yes.
Right? But you as a human being, just because you have money, you can still be a very worthless individual.
Yeah. Well, basically, it's like I could replace you with money.
Right.
That's what that means.
Right.
But if you're someone that creates money, money doesn't make more of its own self. Like it doesn't make money on its own.
Money is not intelligent.
Right. So if you take someone like Elon Musk and you take away his money, you know what he's gonna do? He's gonna make more money. He's gonna start more companies.
Yeah.
Especially too, like right now, like everyone knows he's gonna win.
Oh man.
Like he'll win. He's gonna be
has
like,
that kind of mind. He can't turn it off. He got those first few
Yeah.
checks in his bank account
Yeah.
years ago, and he said, "How do I keep making this grow?"
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's, my God, it's such a bug when you catch on to that. You and I were just talking about this. But yeah, the value that men, and it's really unfortunate, but it's very true. You know, our value. What do you have to offer?
Well, right.
What can you do for us?
Because
that's gonna make
what does a chick ask you? You know, what do you do?
You got a job? You got a car? What do you do?
What do you do?
Asking me that.
What do you do? You know, and it's like, yeah, I mean, fair enough. Like, what woman wants a useless man in her life? It's like, well, yeah, you know, like no wonder. Like you don't want a useless, you know, person around you, and so you should have high standards for yourself. Like, there's no reason you shouldn't. But it can be crushing if you can't live up to those things. You know, it's crushing. It's crushing.
It's extremely crushing because people don't realize just how hard it can be to not only achieve, but just the simple step forward of trying to go into that dark part of the forest.
Yeah.
That step, conquering your fear and going into that place that you don't want to go to, you're terrified of, you know that you think you don't have the mental capacity to handle all these problems that are coming your way.
Yep.
That is so hard just to take that initial step. People don't understand as a man, when they look at men, especially someone who's doing something great, it's easy to go, oh, they're just smart. You know, it just happens naturally for them. They're, you know, it's whatever. Like, he's just one of those people. Like, you don't have the slightest clue how difficult it can be to do some of these things that some of these men are doing. And women, for sure. We can't discount there's entrepreneurial women, right?
Oh,
there's
for sure.
Women who are doing incredible things in business. But specifically, we're talking about men, you know? And men, you know, through the majority of history, we've always had to go towards those dark parts of our minds. You got to go to war, because we understand people are looking at us, and they're just like the question you were asking earlier. They're going, what value can you provide here? You know? Yeah, okay, your personality's great, but I need a man. Like, that was for a long period of our existence, and even to this day, a lot of men are dealing with that, where it's like, I need a man to step up and do these things and defend, like, even your company. It might not even be your girlfriend or your wife asking these questions. It could be your company going, we need a leader. Can you fill this leadership role? Are you a man that can handle all of these people? We need that guy. Where is he? And you're going, this is my opportunity. I'm terrified, but I'm going to try it. And a lot of men just try it. And that can be one of the most terrifying things ever. Try public speaking. Go do it. Just see what happens.
Yeah.
You know? It's not as easy. You watch people public speak all the time. People stand up there, they give these, you're like, oh, I could do better than that. What are you talking about? You know? But it's like, let's go put you in the podium in front of, doesn't have to be 10,000 people. Let's put you out there in front of 100, and they're all just quietly looking at you. And you look into this crowd of people, and you're like, these are, and your mind is gonna play tricks on you. Everybody's judging me, and they're probably all smarter than you. Your mind's gonna start telling you all this stuff, and you're gonna start to feel your heart rate speed up, and you're gonna start to stutter and stammer. And once you fall into that trap, and your words get jumbled in your head, and you lose your place, you watch your ego. You watch all the value you thought you had just shrink and disappear away from you. Well, that is a thing that men throughout history have had to deal with just on a routine basis in life. That's a life thing that men have to go through. Not the public speaking aspect of it, but just that emotion of, I have to go and do this. Everybody's looking at me. Everybody's telling me, just get up there and talk. You have to. You're the man. You need to lead this group. We need to have this conversation. You need to go do this. Provide us some value here. Yeah. You know, a lot of men have to go through that throughout all their entire lives. And you find out when we look around and we say, oh, these men, look at these worthless dudes. They just play video games all day. Look at these guys. He works at a gas station. He does. Those are the men who, when they get up on that podium, they're looking at 100 people, and the weight of it is crushing.
Yeah,
okay?
it is.
People don't understand how heavy that burden is to be that man up there, dealing with that pressure. And I'm talking metaphorically, the pressure of life, the pressure of responsibilities, the pressure of your girlfriend says, I need my car fixed. And you're like, I don't know anything about cars. I'm going to go figure it out. I'm a man, right? The pressure of people telling you, your mom is struggling every single day. She works. She works her butt off every single day. She is old. Yeah. Your dad works every single day. Your brothers and your sisters, they're working. And you are not rich.
Right.
Like, that's the only burden I have. It's like, you need to create millions and millions of dollars. What are you doing? That's that crushing pressure of being up on that podium. People are looking at you going, where's the money? But a lot of times that's the pressure we put on ourselves as men. It's a manly thing. It's an aspect we have to ourselves. It can be unfortunate, but it can also be such an incredible gift if you accept that burden and that responsibility of being a man. Yeah. You look around, you say, I understand I'm afraid. These 100 people in the crowd, they need me. They're reliant on me. You know, I want to provide this. People need a leader, right? You know, when we elect a president, just we can see it right now with our current president. It's very easy to see. When we have a president who's weak, it's so easy to watch the morale of the people around him. Just our country right now, if you were to tell me, oh, tomorrow we have to go to war with Russia and China, okay? Now, there have been presidents in our past. I'm not going to specifically mention names, but there's been presidents in our past who, if you told me tomorrow we have to go to war with Russia, I'd be like, all right, at least we have a good leader. I have some confidence in America right now. I think we can handle this. We have something built up in us, right? If you were to tell me today we have to go to war with Russia and China tomorrow, people will look around and go, oh, what? Well, we don't have a leader. Like, what? I know leadership in our military right now is very questionable. They're introducing all these woke theories. We look very weak. We feel weak. You can feel it in the air. Yeah. Well, people need that leader, that man to step up.
And that's one of the most fundamental things about being a man is being able to be physical.
Right.
Is being able to be physical. Like, it's one of the things Jordan Peterson's talked about. He said, like, when men have discussions and things like, and you have disagreements, he said, everything about the civility of that conversation it's kept civilized because of an undercurrent of the threat of physical violence. Right. So we know where this goes if it goes too far is we put hands on each other. Right. And so that's why it stays civilized. It's like, I don't want to fight you. Like, I don't want to get hurt. So we don't want to get hurt, so we keep it civil. And so being able to be physical, like the more basic we get, the more fundamental it becomes, like the more rudimentary we get back to brass tacks, like the more important it is to have really those basic fundamental masculine features. And a lot of the technological sophistication that we've achieved has kind of it's kind of wiped away a lot of the apparent necessity for that, for the physicality, you know? And so now we have a lot of very much more feminine or effeminate young men that don't have those very strong features. And the thing about it too is like, because like you talk about like being smart is important, but your brain is in your body, and the way you treat that, like those two things are connected. And it actually takes a very strong mind to have a disciplined body. Because take an ordinary guy, you can go to the gym, you can do it, you can work out, you can go train, you can go learn how to fight, you can go learn how to box and do jujitsu. Your body can do all of that. The only reason you're not doing it is because you won't do it. And that's your mind. And so it takes a strong mind first. And so the reason why I think the physical is so valuable is because it suggests something about the mental, because you can't really see that. But when you see someone who does that, you're like, oh, that person is strong-minded. And that's why I like the physicality, because you can't get that on accident. You can't get that on accident. It doesn't, you don't see like, you don't look at Corey and be like, oh, like I fell down and just I woke up one day and I had some muscles and I was just super strong and jacked, and I could fight, It's like, no, like that started with a mindset. And that's why I appreciate it so much, is because that's evidence of a mindset. Now you can have that mindset without having the physicality, but when I can see it, I'm like, okay, I know. this guy, he's about it, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And we don't have that anymore. Like it's hilarious to see, like, if you see on TikTok ever, like the guys doing their makeup now. And I'm like, do your thing. But I think, you know, if we got down to brass tacks, you'd be screwed.
You would have a big problem.
You'd have a problem. You know, you can't protect yourself physically, and you can't protect anyone else physically.
Exactly.
And that's a problem. You know, and it's like, and a lot of, like, it takes a strong will to just be able to stand up to someone verbally. But again, when I see you and you're so physically feeble, to me, that's a sign that you're mentally feeble. And so I don't even think you're the kind of person who could be like a Jordan Peterson, who's not like necessarily a physically imposing personality, but he's such a strong-willed, intelligent, developed, grown adult man. You know, he has the will and the character, and that's why people respect him, you know? And when you can see that, like, it's just a physical manifestation of that when you see a strong man who's confident and he walks around like that, you know?
Yeah. And that's an aspect that we're neglecting in our society. We are neglecting a huge portion of our male population that needs those strong men, because we've developed these terms that you have, toxic masculinity, right?
Yeah.
So
Very clever.
we're willing to cater to these weak individuals that you're talking about, or these people who feel like they don't want to accept that weight and that burden of being a true, genuine man. You know, we've taken those people and we've put their voice through these megaphones to everybody. And if you're a man who says, well, I want to be a good, positive example for a strong group of young men who are watching me, right? That kind of individual now, today, is being... Nobody wants to hear. It's baffling to me that if you stand up for men and you say, I want to produce strong, capable men, how in the hell that ever turned into something that could be a negative, it's just mind-blowing to me. It's like someone who goes to the gym and only trains their biceps. You know, or I'll even give a worse example. It's like someone who, instead of training at all, they just inject synthol into their arms, so they have the appearance of a strong arm.
That's like an arrogant person as opposed to a confident person. Right. Yeah.
And you can look at the rest of their body and you can see that they're very weak. You can't. You haven't built up yourself to actually sustain the muscles that you're trying to present. Right. So we have people in our society right now that are saying, you know, it seems like we live in this world where it's like femininity it's powerful.
Yeah.
To be feminine is to be powerful. It's like, okay. Now, if you look back in history, okay, and if history teaches us anything, it's that men were very valuable and very necessary. And if we look back in history, we don't see anywhere in history where feminine men were the ones to get us through all the hardships. Because what people forget is regardless of how much we want to pretend like everything's okay and everything's all right, it's like the taking guns out of everybody's house thing, right? It's like there are always and forever going to be some people who don't want other people to be happy, who don't want to see them successful, who want to hurt people. Okay, that's a human thing. It's never going to go away. For those people, you're going to always need another group of strong individuals who can handle physically that problem.
Yeah.
Okay, if we all decide we're just going to feed into the feminine side, you know, we're all going to just empower women. We're going to empower men to be more understanding and caring. We're going to shed this burden of being a toxic male. Eddie Penny is an ex-Navy SEAL.
Ooh.
Former Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
He did an interview on the Sean Ryan show on YouTube. And in the podcast that he did, he was talking about how he had gone through his entire career And he was just this savage, this warrior dude, right? He said, any way you can think about killing a human being, almost, I've had to do it overseas, right? He got into some situations, and he did some horrible things. And eventually, he got out of the Navy SEALs, and he was getting more into civilian life, and he was kind of struggling with all the burden and the weight of all of the things that he had done in his life.
Yeah.
And it was messing with him mentally. He had concussions, overseas with all the blastings that they were doing. I think he was a breacher, so he's always dealing with blasts and stuff. So he said eventually he went to this camp, right, to try to help himself out. He went to this Christian camp.
Yeah.
In this Christian camp, there was this group of men. They all come together. And he says, and we're praying, we're reading the scriptures and we're singing and all these things. And he said at a certain point in his life, eventually he did come to the realization that this is what I want to do with my life. I want to give my life to God. I want to worship God. I want to be forgiven of some of the things that I've done in my life.
Yeah.
He said, but one of the things he noticed about Christianity in general was that it seemed to be, to him, the message that was being preached all the time was this message of weakness, of turn the other cheek, always forgive, always do this, always do that. You don't want to cause any trouble, don't want to stir anything up. He said, but if you look in the Bible, you'll see that Jesus, if you want to go through the Bible and you want to feed into this Christian religion and the Christian topic, Jesus was not someone who would run away from a fight. He would stir up strife. He would cause problems. He would speak his mind. He would tell you the truth. He said, a lot of times now he feels like Christianity has been watered down to this place where a lot of men, they don't understand that you're called to fight. Okay? You're not called to always turn the other cheek.
Yeah.
Sometimes you are called to fight. You're called to defend. You're called to protect.
Yep.
Okay? And we have this weak version of men that's being produced in front of us today.
Right. The idea that you should be harmless.
Yeah.
Be harmless.
That's not a good place for us to be at as a country. We can't all feed into that. We do have to have men who are at all times willing to be violent. Violence sometimes is going to fix a problem.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
It's not, we're not saying everyone in the world needs to be
Well,
violent.
that's the thing too. It's like if you look at like a country, it's like as a whole, even just as a species, it'd be better if we weren't violent and killing each other all the time. Yes.
Right.
And so that's how we should be individually. However, we have countries and we have military. Why do we have the military?
Exactly.
Well, here's the thing, is violence is an inevitable part of the human experience. Violence and war and death.
Forever.
Those are inevitabilities. We can't escape those realities. And so the thing is, it's necessary for you to be the kind of person that can deal with that. And you can go to that level, but you should be more willing to walk peacefully until you have to go there. You have to have the ability, and this is exactly what Jordan Peterson talks about all the time. He's like, you should be a monster, and then you should learn how to control it, and you should utilize that for the good, but you have to be able to go to that level. You have to have the capability. You should be able to be dangerous and then be peaceful, because then you're virtuous. Otherwise, you're just harmless, And if you're harmless, like he used the example, I think it's Sleeping Beauty, and like, she's asleep or whatever, and there's the dragon, right? And the knight has to go and fight the dragon. And you say, well, this is a good man. It's like, well, what is a good man? Well, a good man is a kind of man that will go by himself with a sword and slay a dragon to save this woman. So he's not a harmless man. If you're slaying dragons, you're not a harmless man, but you are a good man. And so you need that aspect of, I carry a sword, but I'm peaceful.
Right.
Yeah,
it's very undervalued in our society. I like to ask people who want to say that, manliness is, we should frown on that. You should all strive to be more weak and more feeble. Why do you lock your door when you go home at night?
Yeah.
You know, you want some strength in your door, right? What if we gave you a curtain for a door? Okay, because that's what they're asking men to be. Right?
Oh, that's such a great example. That's beautiful.
Let's put a curtain. It's closed. You can't see
that's
into your
beautiful.
house.
I love that.
Your door now has no strength. It has no toxic strength to it. Okay? Right. Anyone can walk in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like what we're doing with our border right now. And we've just released our grip on any kind of control
security,
on our border,
yeah.
security, and we're like, just come on in. What happened with the movie Troy?
Troy,
You know, eventually, was it the Trojans? Whoever.
Oh,
it was,
yeah, the Trojan
Achilles
horse
and his soldiers. Yeah. Eventually, they were able to sneak in. Right, they had to sneak in because the leaders of the city. They wouldn't let them just walk straight in.
You weren't gonna walk in. You weren't breaking the door down.
They let their guard down, though, and they let them come in with this gift. They presented them with this gift. And in the movie Troy, I'm speaking about the movie. I might not be telling the story.
The historical,
right.
yeah.
But in the movie Troy, right, the soldiers, when the Trojans left this horse and said, they came over to the beach the next day, and this big horse was there. And they were like, the Trojans, they left, you know, they ran away, they went home. And a lot of the soldiers, you know, the people who had that toxic masculinity, they were like, my lord, we need to burn this horse. This is an evil thing. We cannot accept this gift from these pagans. And the king was listening to all the people, right? The people who weren't fighting in the war, the people who didn't understand the concept of we need to protect ourselves at all times.
Be
right?
on
The
guard.
people, they were all like, no, let's take their gift. Let's celebrate. So they bring in this massive horse into the city walls. They all get drunk that night. They're celebrating and dancing around. And at nighttime, that horse opened up and it was full of soldiers. And they went through and burned that entire city to the ground, right? So that's what we are doing with our country right now. We're putting up a curtain, okay? We are dropping our borders. You know, we're saying we still have a secure border, but we're letting in those Trojan horses, right? We're constantly finding out that Errol sent me a video the other day. They were discovering Chinese police agencies in the United States. Chinese run by the CCP were thinking. They found a fake police station in New York City run by Chinese, which I don't even know the concept of how that happens. It was a fake police station run by Chinese.
Wow.
You know, we're letting down our borders. We're letting down our guard, all in the name. And it's like Eddie Penny said. I like the way he said it. He said, some of these people need to be told, okay, it doesn't matter what people are saying around you. You cannot give up. You cannot be weak. Some men have to stand up for some of the things that are right. We can't all just give in to this. Just because someone's telling you you're toxic just because someone says something about you doesn't mean it's true. Right? So right now people are telling men
masculinity is toxic. Well,
I don't care what you're saying anymore. At some point, we have to come to that. It's like we've entertained this idea long enough. Our country is very weak. Okay, a lot of people don't want to admit that, but right now we're looking. Morale is down. Okay, our borders are down. Our president is down. His cabinet is down. Everything is looking very bad for us right now, and the scary thing about America for me right now is it seems like as of lately we've been doing these showcases of force. Like they just recently did this thing where it was like the United States trooped out. They did this big military exhibit of all the strength that we have, and they flew all these jets and they're showing off our military strength. And to me, it almost feels like, you know, in the dying light of your strength, you know, when you see all the wolves are closed around you, what do? You scream. You start screaming and running around. You try to do that last show of, I still can hurt you, you know, but so when a country starts showing off all of its military, you almost have to look at it and go, why are you doing that? Like a true powerful country, we could you should just be able to
know better.
Yeah, we can send our diplomats to your country, and they'll sit down and tell you, don't do that. And that would be the end of the discussion. That was America in the past. Our president could get on TV and say, if you try that, we literally had that power, right? We didn't have to, America never had to stoop to, like North Korea is always doing its demonstrations, right?
Yeah.
They're shooting off little rockets into the ocean, and they look like the little guy shooting his rocket going, I could still hurt you, right?
Yeah.
I don't want America to get to that point where all of a sudden we're at the place where we're giving off these military demonstrations and stuff like, it feels desperate. I'm not saying it is. America's still a very powerful country, but it still has there's this little sliver of cold air coming in, and it's sending shivers down my spine going, why are we, it feels weak to me. I don't like that, you know? We don't have a president anymore that can sit down with other presidents and look at them and say, don't do that. Okay, he doesn't have that power anymore. Our president doesn't. He probably couldn't even get that sentence out of his mouth. He would screw that up. He would say, "Don't." Anyway, you know?
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. It is.
But we've reduced. It starts. Changes in a country start with little micro changes, like big changes, big failures in an engine. Even like if you have a vehicle, big changes can happen to your motor with little. If you carelessly neglect little minor maintenance issues over the course of periods of time. And with our society, we're neglecting those maintenances, those scheduled maintenances. You know, change your tires, change your brakes, put oil in, do this, do that. Our society, we're saying, forget about training up. We're actually neglecting a major portion of our society. We're saying, don't even put fuel in it anymore. Let's just run it until it goes. We're saying, train up our young men and don't give them any sense of masculinity.
Well, it's weird to me because, like, okay, like look at women. Like women are gonna be good at being women. Women are gonna be better at being women than men will be. Let's make that assumption. And we're gonna tell the men that masculinity is toxic. Okay, so what does that lead to? You get women, and then you get men that are just bad at being men because they're not taught to be men. You know. So that's the problem is we have this idea of I don't even like to use it. Sometimes I get to the point where like I could be angry enough to just say, yeah, I'm toxically masculine, like screw you. Like who gives a crap? But realistically, like the way I think about it is like there's like masculinity can be toxic, but it's not like that isn't true masculinity to me. That's an abuse of it. So it's like masculinity is like a weapon or a tool, and you have to wield it appropriately. You have to wield it wisely and intelligently, and you can't abuse that. And so what they've done is they've looked at the abuse and defined that as masculinity. And the abuse of masculine and the masculine power and the masculine frame is the issue. That's what toxic masculinity is. But the masculine itself is not toxic at all. The masculine itself is like, it's empowering, it's encouraging, it's strengthening, it's security, it's care, it's generosity, it's providing. Right. And so when you tell them that masculinity is toxic, though, all of those good aspects go away and you're left with nothing, right? Sure. And those good aspects are what keep society safe.
This is true.
You know? So it's very like it's a very deliberate move. Because it's not accidental. They know that. The people who talk about toxic masculinity, the people who generated that idea, they know that. And they're doing that on purpose. Like it's not accidental because they know better. Right. And that's the thing that bothers me is because they're intentionally destroying our strength. It's a deliberate move. And because a house divided cannot stand it, we're eating ourselves alive. And so I think this is part of how we destroy America is we make ourselves weak so that we're destroying ourselves. That emboldens the opposition, any enemies, anyone who is just waiting to strike. Now we're weak. So not only are we defeating ourselves, but we're also vulnerable to attacks from the outside. And that's the thing too. Like any of the real toxically masculine people, now they can seize the opportunity because there's no real masculinity to back them off. There's no real masculine. Like, you know, when you have that guy who's like a belligerent drunk and is overly aggressive and starts grabbing people and pushing people and yelling. And then you have the actual confident man who's able to be calmly confident in the situation and, you know, settle him down and be like, hey, if you cross this line, there's going to be repercussions. And that's it. Just a matter of fact. If you cross this line, there's going to be repercussions.
Right.
You're not going to get around it. You're going to have to answer to me. You will answer to me if you do this. And without that, then this guy who is legitimately being toxically masculine and using his masculine strength and his aggression to abuse other people, you don't have anyone that can back that off. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. That's what Putin is.
Yeah.
That's what Putin's doing. That's what they're doing in North Korea. That's what it is. That's toxically masculine. But the masculine itself is not inherently toxic. It's the abuse of that power.
100%. And the question now that all of us have to ask ourselves is, how many real men are left who are willing to use their masculinity in an appropriate way to fight off this dangerous precedent that's being set by a lot of the people around us who want to completely take it away because they see it as every single man is toxic and masculine, you know? So how many good men are there who are still willing to fight for that, for those young boys that are growing up right now, for those young men that are looking around at their dads and their brothers and they're seeing this weak individual, those children, are they going to feed into that? Or are they going to say, okay, well, that's how my dad is, I'm just going to be weak? You know, how many men are there left is the real question. And what are they going to do about it? You know? The answer, if you're dealing with a situation like we're dealing with right now, the answer is not for all of the real men who are left to go out and start screaming and protesting in the street. Okay, real men are always going to do what real men have always done, and that's, you can scream, you can yell, you can talk. I'm confident in my abilities. I'll be working. Okay, so those real men that are left now more than ever, we need them to be working. Working on what? Working on our country, working on our military, working on their families, you know, working on their businesses. Okay, stay focused. The message out of this is for the real men in the world. Hopefully, there are enough left to still contain our country and bring it back to some relevance, some semblance of civilization and civility. The key is that those men need to stay focused. They need to tune out the noise. They need to stop catering and giving in. You cannot give in. Okay, when someone walks up to you in the middle of the street and tells you to shut up and sit down, okay, a real man who's not using his masculinity in a toxic way, he's not gonna push that person and beat them up just because they told him to shut up and sit down. He's gonna look them in their eye and say no. And then he's going to explain to them why he's not going to sit down in a calm and civilized manner.
Right, exactly.
And if you put your hands on that man, now you have a whole nother set of problems that he, as a capable man, will handle, and he'll deal with that. And not in a toxic way, but in a way that's going to make you understand that you just made a very big mistake.
Exactly.
And the men in our society right now, the true men that are left, some of them are. Eddie Penny's one of them. Sean Ryan's one of them. Jocko's one of them. You know, Joe Rogan is one of them. We have strong men, Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh. We have a lot of very strong men in the world who are left, Jordan Peterson, who are willing to look you in your eye and without violence tell you you're wrong and here's why. And I don't have to change your mind. I'll give you the answer. But what I will do is I'm going to train my family the right way. Okay, I'm going to raise 5 more men, like Andrew Tate said.
Exactly.
I'm going to raise my sons. They're going to have my name. They're going to have my mindset. Okay? It's because I am strong, and I'm going to train up this next group of individuals. Okay? We're not going to feed into your nonsense. We have half of a brain on our shoulders. So that's the question for us right now, is how many of those men are left?
Well, that's the thing, and too, is the first like, I would say, if we're gonna put a number on it, it's not a great number. It's not a high percentage of it.
Scary.
So what that means is, whoever those men are, wherever they are, the first thing they need to do is make sure that they keep themselves that way. So you don't You don't get lost. You need to keep yourself in that frame, that good, strong, masculine frame. And then the thing about the family that you mentioned is, okay, why don't you have a family? And if you did have a family, how would they be raised? And so what they've done is, okay, they said, if we can't get these masculine men, like they're set in their ways, like dad, you're not changing dad. You're not changing him. Okay, you can't get dad. They said, okay, well, screw it. But dad, he said, what if dad had sent us to public school? He said, well, we can get his kids though. He doesn't get to teach his kids. We're going to teach his kids. Right. So that's the thing. So there's just think about it. Like imagine, let's say you were married, Corey's married, Seth's married, I'm married. We've all got wives and children, okay? And we're going to raise our kids. So one way we can do that is making sure that if we've got families, that we're raising them that way.
Right.
So investing in families and investing in that traditional family, that the way that it was originally set up, that's going to be how we improve the status quo for men like that and families like that. And it takes like, and again, like I don't want to make this, all about men, but because it's so important to have a high quality woman, and you have to be a high quality man in order to be, worth that. And so being selective, and then also holding yourself to the same standards that you hold women to. That's important. And then you can, you can get somewhere. But yeah, because look at dad. Look at dad. You're not going to change that. And dad raised us a certain way. And at this point, us boys, you're not changing us.
No.
You're not changing us. We're too old now. We're set in our ways. Even as young as I am, I'm set. I'm set. I'm a man now. There's nothing you can do about that.
And I have evidence to prove why I am the way that I am. I'm not toxic.
Yep.
I am who I am. There's value to this. That's evident in things that I do. Right? And so we have to look at the opposite of that.
Yep.
We say we were raised by dad. Dad was an unwavering man. He was the house that was built on that foundation. He wasn't built on the sand, right? So when you think the children who were raised with the wrong mindset,
yes,
they're also unwavering and unchanging, and they have these negative thoughts and negative opinions about life and these wrong values that they're holding, and they can't be changed. Now we've come into this situation where it's this terrifying reality of now we have to fight against each other almost. Not in a physical way, but there's this mental struggle in this country right now, and we're all inter-arguing against. It's almost like a civil war. Yeah. And we're just tearing ourselves apart on the inside. And China and Russia, once again, they're looking at going, this is our moment to strike. Let's start our own currency. They're starting on it right now. They're getting things going. We're going to get rid of the dollar. All these things are moving into position, and we're fighting about which gender you are. It's comical. It's comedy at its finest sometimes to look at our country, what it's turned into. Absolute comedy. But we got to get out of here. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Silas again. We did a one-on-one conversation. Errol wasn't here, but he might actually be here for another one. We'll see.
Yeah.
If you guys got any value out of this video, please comment, subscribe, let us know how you feel, share it with your friends. Hopefully, 100% we're going to have you back on the show, man.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We have great conversations. I could keep going all day long.
Yeah, man.
It's too much things to talk about.
Yeah.
But for this episode, we'll call it quits here. We're going to get out of here. Catch you guys in the next video.
Later.
What's cooler than that?
Well, keep it simple, stupid.